J.R.R. Tolkien once said, "Myth is not a lie, it is the breath of life." And that breath has carried the essence of storytelling across centuries, from the fireside tales of ancient civilizations to the blockbuster movies we watch today. But have you ever stopped to think about the invisible threads that tie modern fantasy to these age-old myths? Why do characters like Harry Potter, Frodo Baggins, and Katniss Everdeen feel so familiar, almost as if we've known them for generations? The answer lies in the timeless archetypes and heroic journeys that ancient myths first brought to life. From the trials of Hercules to the epic quests of Gilgamesh, these ancient stories didn't just entertain, they shaped the very foundations of our imagination. In this video, we're going to uncover how the myths of old have breathed life into the fantastical worlds we adore today. Together, we'll trace the journey from ancient legends to modern pop culture, exploring how the echoes of myth continue to inspire the stories that capture our hearts. So let's dive in and discover the hidden connections that make these tales so enduring and so universal. Mythology has always been more than just a collection of ancient tales. At its core, it's a reflection of the human experience, universal themes like heroism, sacrifice, love, and destiny that transcend time and culture. These aren't just stories, they're the beating heart of what it means to be human, and they've found their way into the very fabric of modern fantasy. Think about it, from the valiant hero facing impossible odds to the selfless act that changes the course of history. These elements feel familiar because they're rooted in something timeless. Take the hero's journey, for instance, a concept popularized by Joseph Campbell. It's a pattern we've seen countless times, whether it's Odysseus navigating the seas or Luke Skywalker battling the Death Star. The structure remains the same, but the setting changes, proving that these archetypes are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. So why do these ancient stories still captivate us? Perhaps it's because they speak to something deep within us, our fears, our dreams, our shared humanity. Myths aren't just about the past, they're a mirror that reflects who we are and who we aspire to be. And that's precisely why modern fantasy draws so heavily from them. Authors and creators take these age-old themes and reimagine them in ways that resonate with contemporary audiences. Whether it's the epic battles of The Lord of the Rings or the complex relationships in Game of Thrones, these stories feel both fresh and familiar because they're built on the foundation of myth. What's truly fascinating is how these themes adapt to new contexts without losing their essence. The hero's journey, for example, isn't confined to ancient epics or medieval legends. It's alive in the coming-of-age stories of young witches, the adventures of space explorers, and even the struggles of everyday people in dystopian worlds. This adaptability is what makes mythology so powerful. It's not just a relic of the past, but a living, breathing force that continues to shape the stories we tell today. And as we dive deeper into how these ancient tales have been reimagined, we'll see just how much of our modern culture is still rooted in the myths of old. Greek mythology is a cornerstone of modern fantasy, its threads woven deeply into the fabric of our favorite stories. Think about Zeus, the king of the gods, whose towering presence and complex personality have inspired countless characters in literature and film. From his authority to his flaws, Zeus embodies the archetype of the powerful yet deeply human leader. Similarly, Medusa, with her serpentine hair and petrifying gaze, has become a symbol of both terror and tragedy, influencing characters like Wonder Woman's antagonist, Dr. Poison, and even serving as a metaphor for transformation and resilience. And then there's Achilles, the invincible warrior whose heel became his downfall, a story so iconic it's been echoed in characters like Percy Jackson, who carries the weight of prophecy while grappling with his own vulnerabilities. These figures aren't just relics of the past, they're blueprints for the heroes and villains we love today. But it's not just the gods and heroes that have left their mark. Mythical creatures from Greek lore, like the Minotaur, the fearsome bull-headed beast of the labyrinth, and the Hydra with its regenerating heads, have become staples in fantasy worlds. These creatures challenge characters, test their courage, and often symbolize deeper struggles like the internal battles we all face. Even themes from Greek mythology, such as divine intervention and the tension between human ambition and fate, resonate in modern narratives. Stories often explore what happens when mortals dare to defy the gods or when destiny seems inescapable, reflecting timeless questions about power, choice, and the human condition. As we explore these connections, it's worth noting that Greek mythology isn't alone in shaping fantasy. Other mythologies, like Norse and Egyptian, have also left their indelible marks. The Norse gods, with their complex relationships and apocalyptic destiny, have inspired epic tales of heroism and sacrifice, while Egyptian myths, with their gods of the sun and underworld, have added layers of mysticism and wonder. Together, these ancient stories form a tapestry of inspiration, proving that mythology isn't just a relic of the past, it's a living, breathing force that continues to shape the stories we tell today. The legacy of Norse mythology runs deep in the veins of modern fantasy, leaving an indelible mark on some of the most beloved stories of our time. Think about Marvel's Thor, where the god of thunder isn't just a figure from ancient tales, but a flawed, relatable character navigating family drama and cosmic battles. Neil Gaiman's American Gods takes this a step further, weaving Norse deities into a world where gods walk among us, struggling to find their place in a changing society. What makes these adaptations so compelling is the timeless nature of the gods themselves. Odin, the wise but ruthless All-Father, and Loki, the trickster whose motives are as unpredictable as they are destructive, embody the complexities of modern anti-heroes. Their moral ambiguity and layered personalities resonate with audiences who crave depth and nuance in their characters. But it's not just the gods that have captured our imagination. Concepts like Ragnarok, the cataclysmic end of the world, and the Nine Realms, a vast interconnected universe, have been reimagined into epic storylines that feel both ancient and fresh. These ideas tap into something primal, a sense of inevitability and grandeur that speaks to our fascination with the unknown. Norse myths carry a darker, more fatalistic tone compared to other mythologies, where even the gods are bound by fate. This stark contrast adds a layer of tension and depth to stories that borrow from its themes, making them feel weighty and consequential. As we delve into the enduring appeal of Norse mythology, it's impossible not to notice how its influence has shaped the way we think about storytelling. Its blend of heroism, tragedy, and cosmic scale continues to inspire creators across genres, proving that these ancient tales are as relevant today as they were centuries ago. And as we turn our gaze to another rich mythological tradition, we'll see how Egyptian mythology brings its own unique flavor to the world of modern fantasy. The mystical allure of Egyptian mythology has long captivated the imagination of storytellers, weaving its ancient magic into modern fantasy in ways that are both thrilling and deeply symbolic. Take, for example, the enduring fascination with gods like Ra, the sun god, and Anubis, the guardian of the afterlife. These deities, with their roles as protectors and judges, have inspired a wealth of characters in contemporary fantasy. Ra's embodiment of life and creation echoes in heroes who wield light against darkness, while Anubis's solemn duty as a guide to the dead finds its way into characters who navigate the boundaries between life and death. These aren't just abstract figures from the past, they're archetypes that resonate with universal themes of justice, transformation, and the eternal struggle between order and chaos. One of the most captivating themes in Egyptian mythology is resurrection, a concept that has profoundly shaped fantasy narratives. From the undead warriors in The Mummy to the reincarnation cycles in the Kane Chronicles, the idea of returning from death or transcending it entirely taps into something deeply human, our fear of mortality and our desire for immortality. These stories often use resurrection not just as a plot device, but as a metaphor for renewal, redemption, or even the cyclical nature of time itself. It's a powerful reminder of how ancient myths continue to explore questions that still haunt us today. But it's not just the gods and their stories that inspire modern fantasy, it's the artifacts and symbols too. Hieroglyphs, for instance, are more than just an ancient writing system. They're often portrayed as keys to unlocking hidden knowledge or unleashing untold power. And let's not forget the allure of ancient curses, a staple in tales like The Mummy. These curses aren't just about danger, they're about hubris, the consequences of defying natural or divine laws. They remind us that some secrets are meant to stay buried and that the past has a way of catching up to us, no matter how much we try to outrun it. Egyptian mythology's influence on fantasy is undeniable, but it's only the beginning. There's a whole world of lesser-known mythologies waiting to be explored, each with its own unique gods, heroes, and themes that have quietly shaped the stories we love today. Mythology isn't just about the gods and heroes of ancient Greece or Norse legends. It's a global tapestry of stories that have shaped cultures and inspired countless works of fantasy. While we often hear about the well-known myths, it's the lesser-known traditions from Africa, Asia, and the Americas that have quietly fueled some of the most imaginative worlds in modern storytelling. Take Anansi the spider, a central figure in West African folklore. Known as a trickster and storyteller, Anansi's cunning and wisdom have echoed through generations, even finding their way into contemporary works like Black Panther. The character of Anansi, though not directly named in the film, embodies the same cleverness and resilience that defines many of Wakanda's heroes. It's a reminder that these ancient myths aren't just relics of the past, they're living, breathing influences on the stories we love today. Then there's the rich world of Japanese folklore, which has profoundly shaped the realm of anime and manga. Creatures like the mischievous kitsune or fox spirits and the eerie yokai, supernatural beings with mysterious powers, have become staples in these genres. Shows like Naruto and Inuyasha are brimming with references to these myths, blending traditional elements with modern narratives. The kitsune, for example, often appear as shape-shifting characters with both playful and dangerous traits, adding layers of complexity to the stories they inhabit. This fusion of old and new showcases how folklore can be reimagined in ways that resonate with contemporary audiences. Native American legends, too, have left their mark on popular culture, though often in ways that require a closer look. Take the Lone Ranger, for instance. While the story is rooted in Western tropes, its portrayal of Tonto draws from Native American archetypes, blending myth with the narrative of the American frontier. These representations, though sometimes simplified, hint at the deeper storytelling traditions of indigenous cultures, traditions that are rich with themes of connection to nature, spirituality, and community. So, what happens when we explore these lesser-known mythologies? For one, it broadens our understanding of what fantasy can be. By stepping beyond the familiar, we discover new archetypes, new themes, and new ways of seeing the world. These myths remind us that every culture has its own unique lens through which to explore universal human experiences, whether it's the cleverness of a trickster, the mystery of a spirit, or the bond between humans and the natural world. And as storytellers continue to draw from these traditions, they invite us to see fantasy not as a single, fixed genre, but as a kaleidoscope of possibilities. What other myths waiting in the shadows could inspire the next great fantasy epic? mythological archetypes have been the backbone of storytelling for centuries, and their echoes are unmistakable in modern fantasy. Take the hero archetype, for example. In ancient myths, heroes like Odysseus were defined by their courage, cunning, and often their flaws. These traits are mirrored in characters like Luke Skywalker, who embarks on a transformative journey from farm boy to savior. Both figures face trials, confront their fears, and ultimately rise to fulfill their destiny. This connection isn't accidental, it's a deliberate nod to the timeless appeal of the hero's journey, a narrative structure that resonates deeply with audiences across cultures and eras. Then there's the mentor archetype, the wise guide who aids the hero on their path. In myth, figures like Chiron, the centaur who trained Greek heroes, or the enigmatic Merlin from Arthurian legends embody this role. Fast forward to modern fantasy, and we see their influence in characters like Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings. These mentors provide wisdom, protection, and sometimes a nudge in the right direction, helping the hero grow while maintaining an air of mystery. Their presence adds depth to the story, creating a bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary. The trickster archetype, on the other hand, brings a different kind of energy to storytelling. Loki from Norse mythology is perhaps the most iconic example, a figure who thrives on chaos, challenges authority, and blurs the line between ally and adversary. This archetype has evolved into characters like the Joker in Batman, whose unpredictability and moral ambiguity keep audiences on edge. The trickster's enduring appeal lies in their ability to disrupt the status quo, forcing other characters and viewers to question their assumptions and expectations. These archetypes work because they tap into something universal. When we encounter a hero, mentor, or trickster in a story, we instinctively recognize them, even if we've never seen them before. This sense of familiarity makes new tales feel grounded, even as they introduce us to fantastical worlds and ideas. It's a testament to the power of myth, its ability to transcend time and culture, shaping the stories we tell today. And speaking of the fantastical, these archetypes often share the stage with another key element of mythology, mythical creatures. From dragons to phoenixes, these beings add texture and wonder to the worlds they inhabit, enriching the narrative in ways that are both familiar and surprising. Mythical creatures have always been a cornerstone of storytelling, and their journey from ancient legends to modern fantasy is nothing short of extraordinary. Take dragons, for instance. In many mythologies, dragons were often seen as embodiments of chaos and destruction, like the fearsome Nidhogg from Norse lore, gnawing at the roots of the world tree. Yet, in modern tales like Game of Thrones, dragons are not just symbols of chaos but also power, loyalty, and even vulnerability. Daenerys Targaryen's dragons, for example, are as much a reflection of her own journey as they are formidable beasts. Similarly, the phoenix, a creature synonymous with rebirth and renewal, has found its way into stories like Harry Potter. Fawkes, Dumbledore's loyal companion, is more than just a magical bird. It's a symbol of hope, resilience, and the cyclical nature of life. Even unicorns, once seen as pure and elusive beings in medieval tales, have taken on new roles in modern narratives, sometimes as symbols of innocence, other times as creatures with a darker edge. But it's not just about reimagining existing creatures. Modern fantasy often draws on mythological motifs to create entirely new beings. Take the Dementors from Harry Potter. While not directly lifted from any specific myth, they embody the ancient fear of soul-stealing spirits, creatures that drain life and joy, a concept that echoes through countless cultures. This blending of old and new allows writers to craft creatures that feel both familiar and fresh, rooted in tradition yet uniquely their own. So why do these mythical beings continue to captivate us? Perhaps it's because they tap into universal themes: fear, hope, power, and transformation that resonate across time and culture. They're not just monsters or magical animals, they're mirrors of our own struggles, aspirations, and dreams. And in the hands of skilled storytellers, they become the building blocks of entire worlds, inviting us to explore realms where the impossible feels real. From the towering peaks of Mount Olympus to the shadowy depths of the Norse underworld, mythological landscapes have always been more than just settings. They're living, breathing entities that shape the stories they inhabit. These ancient worlds, filled with divine realms and forbidden territories, didn't just disappear with the myths themselves. Instead, they've become the blueprints for some of the most iconic fantasy worlds in modern storytelling. Take Valhalla, for example, the Norse hall of heroes where warriors feast eternally. Its grandeur and sense of destiny have echoes in realms like Middle-earth's Minas Tirith, where the fate of civilizations hangs in the balance. Or consider the underworld, a concept found in nearly every culture, from the Greek Hades to the Mesopotamian Kur. Its labyrinthine mysteries and moral weight have inspired countless fictional underworlds, like the chilling land of the dead in Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials. But it's not just about copying these mythic geographies, it's about understanding their essence. Mythological landscapes often carry inherent rules and logic, whether it's the idea of divine intervention or the consequences of trespassing sacred spaces. These elements become the foundation for the internal logic of fantasy worlds. In The Lord of the Rings, for instance, Tolkien didn't just borrow from Norse and Celtic myths. He wove their spiritual and moral frameworks into Middle-earth. The result is a world that feels cohesive and immersive, where every river, forest, and mountain has a story rooted in mythic tradition. What makes these worlds so compelling is their depth and consistency. When a fictional universe mirrors the complexity of mythological realms where every detail has purpose and every place has history, it draws readers and viewers in, making them feel like they've stepped into a living, breathing world. This is where cultural myths play a crucial role. They don't just provide inspiration, they offer a shared language of symbols and archetypes that resonate across time and cultures. By tapping into these universal themes, fantasy creators can craft worlds that feel both familiar and wondrously new. As we look at how these mythic foundations shape fantasy genres, it's worth asking, what is it about these ancient landscapes that continues to captivate us? Perhaps it's their ability to reflect our deepest fears, desires, and questions about existence. Or maybe it's the way they remind us that every world, no matter how fantastical, is built on the stories we've told for centuries. Whatever the reason, one thing is clear: mythology doesn't just inspire fantasy, it breathes life into it. Mythology has always been the wellspring of storytelling, and its influence continues to shape entire genres of modern fantasy. Take high fantasy, for instance, a genre defined by its sprawling worlds, larger-than-life heroes, and battles between good and evil. These elements trace their roots directly to ancient myths like the Iliad and the Odyssey, where heroes embarked on perilous quests and faced gods and monsters. The epic scope of high fantasy mirrors the grandeur of these myths, offering readers and viewers a sense of awe and wonder on a similar scale. Think of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, where the journey of Frodo and the Fellowship feels like a modern retelling of a mythic quest, complete with moral dilemmas, divine intervention, and the weight of destiny. Then there's urban fantasy, which takes these timeless themes and plants them firmly in the modern world. Series like The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare blend ancient myths with contemporary settings, creating a fascinating interplay between the old and the new. In these stories, werewolves, demons, and angels walk the streets of cities like New York, showing how myths can adapt to reflect the fears and dreams of our time. Urban fantasy reminds us that the supernatural isn't confined to distant lands or long-forgotten eras. It's alive and woven into the fabric of our everyday lives. Dystopian fiction, too, draws deeply from mythological archetypes, particularly stories of apocalypse and renewal. Many dystopian narratives, like The Hunger Games or Mad Max, echo myths of civilizations collapsing and the struggle to rebuild. These stories tap into universal fears of societal breakdown and the resilience of the human spirit, themes as old as the tales of Ragnarok or the flood myths found in cultures worldwide. By reimagining these ancient motifs, dystopian fiction keeps them relevant, offering a lens through which we can explore urgent issues like survival, rebellion, and hope in the face of despair. So, how do these genres keep mythology alive in new ways? They take the timeless themes of myth, heroism, transformation, the clash of forces, and reinterpret them for contemporary audiences. High fantasy preserves the grandeur and moral complexity of ancient epics. Urban fantasy brings the supernatural into our modern reality, making it immediate and relatable. Dystopian fiction uses mythic narratives to confront our deepest anxieties and aspirations. Together, they show that mythology isn't just a relic of the past. It's a living, evolving force that continues to inspire and shape the stories we tell today. Mythology has left an indelible mark on modern pop culture, particularly in movies and television, where ancient stories and themes are reimagined for today's audiences. Take Star Wars, for instance, a saga that's essentially a space opera but steeped in mythic traditions. The hero's journey, a concept popularized by mythologist Joseph Campbell, is at the core of Luke Skywalker's story. From the call to adventure to facing his shadow in Darth Vader, these classic mythic motifs resonate deeply, making the galaxy far, far away feel strangely familiar. Then there's The Witcher, a series that blends Slavic folklore with epic fantasy. Geralt of Rivia's world is filled with mythical creatures like dragons and strigas, but it's the moral ambiguity and quest-driven narratives that tie it back to ancient storytelling traditions. These stories aren't just about battles and magic, they're about exploring what it means to be human, a theme that myths have wrestled with for centuries. Some shows, like American Gods, take a more direct approach by weaving mythological figures into modern settings. Characters like Odin and Anubis walk among us, their ancient powers clashing with contemporary society. This adaptation not only brings these gods to life, but also asks profound questions about belief, identity, and the changing nature of divinity in the modern age. Visual effects play a crucial role in translating these mythical elements to the screen. From the awe-inspiring dragons in Game of Thrones to the towering titans in Clash of the Titans, technology allows filmmakers to breathe life into creatures and gods that once existed only in imagination. This visual grandeur enhances the storytelling, making mythic tales more accessible and immersive for global audiences. The universal appeal of these adaptations is undeniable. Whether it's a Korean drama inspired by Eastern legends or a Hollywood blockbuster drawing from Greek mythology, these stories tap into something timeless: shared human experiences like love, loss, and the quest for meaning. As myth continues to shape our screens, it's also making its way into another realm of storytelling: video games. Here, players don't just watch the hero's journey, they live it, stepping into the shoes of characters who face mythic trials and triumphs. This evolution of mythology in pop culture shows just how deeply these ancient stories still resonate, continually finding new ways to inspire and captivate us. Video games have become one of the most dynamic mediums for bringing mythology to life, offering players not just a story to follow but a world to explore. Take God of War, for example. This series masterfully weaves Norse and Greek mythology into its narrative, blending epic tales of gods and monsters with the personal journey of its protagonist, Kratos. What sets it apart is its ability to make you feel like you're part of the myth, wielding divine weapons. battling legendary creatures and making choices that reflect the moral dilemmas at the heart of these ancient stories. It's not just about playing a game, it's about stepping into the shoes of a hero and experiencing the weight of their decisions firsthand. Similarly, Assassin's Creed takes players on a historical and mythological journey, immersing them in meticulously recreated ancient worlds. Whether it's the pyramids of Egypt or the temples of Greece, these games use mythological settings as more than just backdrops, they're integral to the story. By intertwining real historical events with mythical elements, Assassin's Creed creates a rich tapestry that feels both authentic and fantastical. It's a reminder that mythology isn't just a collection of stories, it's a lens through which we can explore the values, fears, and aspirations of the cultures that created them. What's fascinating is how these games reinterpret myths to fit their mechanics and storytelling. Mythology isn't treated as a static relic of the past, but as a living, breathing entity that evolves with each adaptation. In God of War, the Norse gods are reimagined as complex, flawed characters, while Assassin's Creed often frames myths as tools of political power or societal control. These reinterpretations invite players to think critically about the stories they're engaging with, asking questions like, what does it mean to be a hero? How do myths shape our understanding of morality? And how do the choices we make in these virtual worlds reflect our own values? But perhaps the most compelling aspect of video games is their interactivity. Unlike books or movies, games allow us to actively participate in the mythic journey. Whether it's solving puzzles in an ancient temple or deciding whether to spare or slay a god, these experiences create a deeper, more personal connection to mythology. They transform passive listeners into active participants, making the stories feel alive in a way that's uniquely powerful. So, how do video games deepen our connection to mythology? By turning us into storytellers ourselves, allowing us to shape the narrative and, in the process, discover new layers of meaning in these timeless tales. This shift from interactive gaming to written storytelling opens the door to another fascinating realm, mythology in literature. Just as video games bring myths to life through play, books and poems allow us to explore these stories through the power of imagination. It's a transition that highlights the versatility of mythology, showing how it can adapt to any medium while continuing to resonate with audiences across generations. Mythology isn't just a relic of the past, it's alive and thriving in the pages of modern literature, shaping the stories we love today. Authors like Rick Riordan have masterfully brought ancient myths into the present, creating worlds where Greek, Roman, and Egyptian gods walk among us. His Percy Jackson series has introduced a whole generation to the richness of mythology, blending adventure, humor, and timeless themes in a way that feels both familiar and fresh. But it's not just young adult fiction that's embracing these ancient tales. N.K. Jemisin, for instance, has reimagined mythology in her groundbreaking works, weaving together diverse cultural legends to craft narratives that resonate with contemporary audiences. In her novel, The City We Became, Jemisin draws on myths and symbolism from multiple traditions, creating a story that explores identity, community, and the power of collective memory. This resurgence of mythological themes in literature goes beyond mere storytelling. It's about reinterpreting ancient wisdom for today's world. Myths, with their universal themes of heroism, transformation, and the struggle between order and chaos, offer a framework for exploring complex modern issues. By blending myths from different cultures, authors are not only honoring these traditions but also expanding the diversity of literature itself. This fusion of ancient and modern creates a space where readers can see themselves reflected in stories that span centuries and continents. And it's not just confined to novels. The influence of mythology extends into other forms of storytelling, including comic books, where gods and heroes have found a new kind of immortality. From Thor's hammer to Wonder Woman's ties to Greek mythology, these characters bring ancient legends to life in ways that captivate audiences of all ages. This blending of myth and modern media shows just how timeless these stories truly are, proving that the echoes of the past continue to shape the narratives of the future. Comic books have become a modern-day canvas for ancient myths, bringing timeless tales to life in ways that resonate with today's audiences. Marvel and DC, two giants in the industry, have masterfully woven mythological elements into their stories, creating a bridge between the past and the present. Take Thor, for example, a direct adaptation of the Norse god of thunder. His journey from Asgard to Earth mirrors the mythic archetype of the divine interacting with the mortal world, yet his struggles with identity and duty reflect contemporary themes of belonging and responsibility. Similarly, Ares, the Greek god of war, has been reimagined as a complex antihero in DC's universe, embodying both the destructive and redemptive sides of conflict. These characters aren't just borrowed from mythology, they're redefined to speak to modern issues like justice, morality, and the human condition. But it's not just about the characters, it's the stories they inhabit. Comic book narratives often echo the epic struggles found in myths, such as the timeless battle between good and evil. Think of the Infinity Gauntlet saga, where Thanos seeks ultimate power in a way that parallels the hubris of mythical titans. Or the Justice League's fight against Darkseid, a tale reminiscent of gods clashing to protect the universe. These arcs aren't just entertaining, they carry the weight of mythic themes that have shaped cultures for centuries. What's truly fascinating is how comics make these ancient stories accessible. By blending myth with contemporary issues, whether it's Spider-Man's everyday struggles or Black Panther's exploration of heritage and leadership, comics invite readers to see themselves in these larger-than-life tales. They transform abstract myths into relatable adventures, sparking curiosity and connection. So, how do comics ensure that mythology remains relevant to new generations? By turning gods into superheroes and timeless battles into modern epics, they keep the essence of these stories alive, reminding us that the questions our ancestors asked about identity, purpose, and justice are still as important today as they were thousands of years ago. Mythology has always been a mirror reflecting the values, fears, and aspirations of the societies that crafted these timeless tales. Think about the ancient Greeks, for instance, whose myths often revolved around themes of honor, justice, and resilience, qualities they admired and sought to emulate. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were a way to pass down life lessons, to teach people how to navigate the complexities of their world. Today, these same themes continue to resonate in modern storytelling, proving that the human experience hasn't changed as much as we might think. But mythology doesn't just mirror the past, it evolves to address the present. Take climate change, for example. In recent years, we've seen new myths and stories emerge that tackle this pressing global issue. These narratives often draw on archetypal figures like heroes and ecological guardians to inspire action and awareness. Similarly, myths have become a powerful tool for addressing social justice, giving voice to marginalized communities and challenging outdated norms. By reimagining ancient tales or creating entirely new ones, storytellers are using mythology to spark conversations about the world we live in today. Beyond individual themes, mythology plays a vital role in fostering cultural identity and unity. Across the globe, myths have served as a shared language, connecting people through common stories and symbols. They remind us of where we come from, grounding us in a sense of belonging. Even in our increasingly globalized world, mythology continues to bridge divides, offering a way to celebrate diversity while finding common ground. What's truly remarkable is how these values, honor, justice, resilience, and unity, remain timeless. They've survived centuries of retellings, adapting to new contexts while staying true to their core. And that's where the creative process comes in. Adapting mythology for modern audiences isn't just about updating the setting or the characters. It's about capturing the essence of those enduring values and making them relevant to today's world. Whether it's through books, films, or even video games, the challenge is to honor the past while speaking to the present. And as we'll see next, that creative process is as much about innovation as it is about tradition. When we think about the stories we love today, whether it's a blockbuster movie, a best-selling novel, or even a video game, it's fascinating to realize how many of them trace their roots back to ancient myths. But how do writers and creators take these age-old tales and breathe new life into them for modern audiences? It's not as simple as copying and pasting. Instead, it's a delicate dance of honoring the original while finding ways to make it resonate with today's world. One of the biggest challenges creators face is balancing authenticity with innovation. Myths are often deeply tied to specific cultures, time periods, and belief systems. Stray too far from the source material, and you risk losing what makes the story meaningful. Stick too closely, and it might feel outdated or inaccessible. This is where research becomes crucial. A creator diving into these stories needs to understand not just the plot, but the cultural significance, the symbolism, and the values embedded within. For example, when adapting a Greek myth, it's important to grasp how ancient Greeks viewed concepts like fate, honor, or the divine. But even with that foundation, there's room to reinterpret. Take the character of Medusa, often portrayed as a monster. Modern retellings have reframed her story as one of victimhood and empowerment, giving her a voice that ancient myths rarely did. Cultural sensitivity also plays a huge role in this process. Myths aren't just stories, they're part of a culture's identity. Adapting them without care can lead to misrepresentation or even offense. Creators must ask themselves, am I borrowing respectfully or am I exploiting? Am I adding to the conversation or am I distorting it? This is especially important when working with myths from cultures that have historically been marginalized or misrepresented. The goal should be to honor the source while creating something that feels relevant and fresh. Another fascinating aspect of modern myth adaptations is how they're used to comment on current events and issues. Myths have always been a way for societies to grapple with big questions: justice, power, morality, and human nature. Today, creators use them to explore contemporary themes like climate change, social justice, or technological advancement. The story of Icarus, for instance, has been reimagined as a cautionary tale about humanity's hubris in the face of scientific progress. By connecting ancient narratives to modern concerns, creators make these stories feel not just relevant but urgent. So, what challenges do creators face when working with ancient stories? For one, there's the pressure to innovate while staying true to the essence of the myth. There's also the risk of oversimplifying complex cultural narratives or alienating audiences who hold those myths sacred. And then there's the creative challenge itself. How do you take a story that's been told for centuries and make it feel new? It's no small task, but when done well, the results can be transformative, bridging the gap between the past and the present in ways that captivate and inspire. As we move forward, we'll see how these adaptations extend beyond storytelling into the realms of art and design, where mythology continues to shape our visual and creative landscapes. Mythological themes have long been a wellspring of inspiration for artists, shaping everything from classical paintings to the concept art of modern films and video games. Think of the dramatic portrayals of Greek gods in Renaissance artworks like Botticelli's The Birth of Venus or Michelangelo's depiction of the Sistine Chapel ceiling. These pieces didn't just retell ancient stories, they breathed new life into them, using symbolism and iconography to convey deeper meanings. The laurel wreaths, the thunderbolts, the serpents, these weren't just decorative elements. They were visual cues that connected viewers to the power and mystery of the myths. Fast forward to today, and this tradition continues in stunning ways. Concept artists for blockbuster films like Lord of the Rings or games like God of War draw heavily from mythological archetypes and imagery. The intricate designs of armor, the sprawling landscapes, and even the otherworldly creatures are often rooted in ancient legends. But here's the twist. These artists reinterpret these stories through contemporary lenses, blending traditional symbols with modern aesthetics. Think of the way Norse mythology is reimagined in Thor Ragnarok, where the grandeur of Asgard meets a vibrant, almost psychedelic color palette. It's mythology, but not as it's been told before. This fusion of ancient and modern isn't just visually striking, it also shapes broader aesthetic trends in fantasy. The recurring motifs, heroic quests, divine interventions, and cosmic battles are universal, but the way they're depicted evolves with time. Take the rise of digital art and CGI, which allows for more intricate and immersive representations of mythological worlds. These advancements don't just replicate the past, they transform it, creating new ways for audiences to engage with timeless stories. And let's not forget the enduring appeal of mythological imagery itself. There's something deeply resonant about these symbols that transcends cultural and temporal boundaries. Whether it's the phoenix rising from ashes or the labyrinthine paths of the Minotaur, these stories tap into universal human experiences, struggle, transformation, and the quest for meaning. They're not just relics of the past, they're living narratives that continue to inspire and captivate. Looking ahead, the role of mythology in fantasy storytelling shows no signs of fading. As technology advances and storytelling mediums evolve, the ways we interpret and represent these ancient tales will only become more diverse and imaginative. The future of fantasy lies in this delicate balance, honoring the roots of mythology while daring to reimagine it in bold, unexpected ways. As we look ahead, it's clear that mythology will continue to be a cornerstone of fantasy storytelling, but its role is evolving. One of the most exciting trends is the blending of multiple mythologies into single narratives. Imagine a world where Greek gods cross paths with Norse giants, or African deities interact with Asian spirits. This fusion not only creates richer, more complex worlds, but also reflects our increasingly interconnected global culture. It's a way to honor diverse traditions while crafting something entirely new. Technology is another game changer, offering innovative ways to bring myths to life. Virtual reality, for instance, could allow us to step directly into the shoes of legendary heroes, experiencing their trials and triumphs in immersive detail. Picture yourself standing beside Hercules as he faces the Hydra, or sailing with Odysseus through the treacherous waters of the Mediterranean. These advancements don't just retell myths, they breathe new life into them, making ancient stories resonate with modern audiences in ways we've never seen before. Global storytelling is also reshaping how mythology influences fantasy. As voices from around the world gain more visibility, the stories we tell are becoming more diverse. We're seeing myths from indigenous cultures, underrepresented regions, and lesser-known traditions take center stage. This shift not only broadens the scope of fantasy, but also deepens our understanding of the human experience, reminding us that every culture has its own myths, heroes, and lessons to share. But as we embrace these changes, one question looms large. How can we ensure that mythology remains relevant in a rapidly changing world? The answer lies in our ability to connect these ancient stories to our own lives. Myths have always been about more than gods and monsters. They're about the human condition, our struggles, our triumphs, and our search for meaning. By finding personal connections to these timeless tales, we can keep them alive for generations to come. Mythology isn't just a collection of ancient stories, it's a mirror that reflects who we are, where we come from, and what we value. think about the myths that have stayed with you over the years. Maybe it's a tale your grandparents told you, a story you read in school, or even a modern interpretation in a movie or book. These stories stick with us because they connect to something deeper, our personal and cultural identities. Our backgrounds shape how we interpret myths, giving them unique meanings that resonate with our own experiences. For me, the story of Icarus has always been a powerful reminder of the balance between ambition and humility. It's not just a cautionary tale about flying too close to the sun. It's a metaphor for the risks we take in pursuit of our dreams and the lessons we learn along the way. But mythology isn't just about individual growth, it's about understanding the human experience as a whole. These stories explore universal themes like love, loss, courage, and fear, offering insights that transcend time and culture. They give us a framework for navigating life's challenges and understanding the world around us. So, what myths speak to you? Is there a story that's helped you through a tough time or inspired you to see things differently? Whether it's the resilience of Odysseus, the creativity of Anansi, or the wisdom of Athena, these tales have the power to shape how we see ourselves and our place in the world. And it doesn't stop there. Mythology has always been a cornerstone of society, influencing art, literature, and even the way we think about morality and purpose. These stories aren't just relics of the past, they're alive, evolving with each generation to address contemporary questions and challenges. By connecting with mythology, we're not just honoring ancient traditions, we're tapping into a shared heritage that continues to shape our collective identity. So let's take a moment to explore how these timeless narratives impact not just our personal lives, but the world around us. What can they teach us about connection, resilience, and the enduring power of storytelling? Mythology isn't just a collection of ancient stories, it's a living force that continues to shape how we think, learn, and connect as a society. These timeless tales have always been more than entertainment. They've served as a foundation for education, offering moral lessons and historical insights that resonate across generations. Think about it, stories like the trials of Hercules or the wisdom of Athena aren't just about gods and heroes. They're about human struggles, choices, and the consequences that follow. These narratives teach us about courage, justice, and resilience, principles that are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. Beyond their educational value, myths play a pivotal role in shaping cultural identity. They're the threads that weave together the fabric of communities, preserving shared histories and values. For many cultures, mythology isn't just a relic of the past, it's a way to understand who they are and where they come from. It's through these stories that traditions are passed down, ensuring that the lessons of the past aren't lost to time. This preservation of myths isn't just about nostalgia, it's about keeping alive the wisdom and creativity of our ancestors. Speaking of creativity, mythology has long been a wellspring of inspiration, sparking imagination and critical thinking. When we engage with these stories, we're not just passive listeners, we're invited to interpret, question, and reimagine them in new ways. This process doesn't just enhance our creativity, it sharpens our ability to analyze complex ideas and find deeper meanings. Whether it's through literature, art, or even modern-day media, mythology encourages us to think beyond the surface, fostering a mindset that values curiosity and exploration. Perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of mythology is its universality. These stories transcend time, geography, and culture, acting as a bridge between the past and the present. They remind us that despite our differences, we share common questions about life, purpose, and the human experience. In a world that often feels divided, mythology has the power to unite us, offering a lens through which we can understand both our history and our future. As we reflect on the enduring impact of mythology, it's clear that these stories are more than just relics of the past, they're a vital part of who we are. By preserving and sharing them, we ensure that their lessons and inspiration continue to shape generations to come. From the ancient fireside tales of gods and heroes to the sprawling universes of modern fantasy, we've traced the enduring thread of mythology that weaves through time and culture. These stories, born in the hearts of civilizations long gone, have transformed, adapted, and found new life in the books we read, the movies we watch, and the games we play. They remind us that myths are not dusty relics of the past but vibrant, ever-evolving forces that continue to shape our world. As J.R.R. Tolkien once said, fantasy is a natural human activity. It does not destroy or insult reason, but it nourishes the imagination, and it gives to the emotions the chance to express themselves. Mythology's power lies in its ability to speak to universal truths: love, loss, courage, and the struggle between light and dark. Whether it's the epic battles of the Norse gods, the tragic love of Orpheus and Eurydice, or the moral complexities of modern characters like those in Game of Thrones, these stories resonate because they reflect the human experience in all its beauty and chaos. They invite us to explore what it means to be human, to dream, and to confront the unknown. If this journey through the connection between ancient myths and modern fantasy has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to dive deeper. Explore the myths that inspire your favorite stories, and let me know in the comments which ones resonate with you the most. Together, we can uncover the timeless magic of storytelling. And if you're eager for more explorations like this, hit that subscribe button, because the world of mythology and fantasy is vast, and there are countless tales waiting to be unraveled. Let's keep the adventure alive.